put it on our planning doc. But I'm curious how people are thinking about beauty in general during COVID-19. Are we all like just not putting makeup on, or we are more mindful about it? Hello everyone, welcome. Hannah here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. A couple of more minutes I'll give to everyone to tune in, as well as our host. Give me a second. And we're live on Facebook too, and feel free to have your camera off or on, jump into the conversation, all the good things. Meredith is saying, I try and do the makeup once a week just to remember how. It mostly no makeup. Exactly. That might not be a bad thing if everyone just doesn't remember how to wear makeup. But this is why, this is the reason why we have this coffee chat, so we don't forget about how to put makeup on. All right, Laura's siren is going off. That's why she's muted right now. Perfect timing to announce the start of the coffee chat. And yeah, we're just waiting for our guest. Let me ping her really quick again. I don't think I see her yet. No, she's not here yet. Yeah, our guest is Tiila Abbitt, and she is the founder of Aether Beauty, a really cool makeup company that we just learned about. I got this awesome, beautiful palette from her, which includes blush and a highlighter. I'm really excited about that. I use very minimal makeup, but I always like to use a little bit of blush, and Tiila will talk a bit about it. But even her packaging is plastic free. If you notice, there's no mirror inside it either. So she kind of marked all the check boxes in terms of, you know, having a sustainable and almost like zero waste brand as well. Okay, Laura's emailing Tyler. Oh, and I can just keep chatting with you guys. Okay, couple of more minutes for everyone to tune in, and then you know, we will talk about clean beauty. And if you have any specific questions, feel free to start dropping them on in the chat box right now. I will also be monitoring questions on Facebook. We are live on Brightly.eco Facebook page and inside our group called Good Together. And why don't let me just pull up the Facebook page so I don't miss anyone's I don't miss anyone's comments and questions. And again, feel free to jump into the conversation. The main reason why we started doing these coffee chats instead of like Instagram lives or Facebook lives was actually to have this interaction going on with our audience. And so don't be shy, or be shy, up to you. You know, we are here for you, and we're here to learn from each other. Alrighty, so let me briefly introduce myself. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Lisa. I'm co-founder of Brightly. Chief Marketing Officer, and most importantly, I'm Scouts Leader. Brightly, of course, is a platform and now a podcast called Good Together, on a mission to ignite change via conscious consumerism. We're very excited to have our Good Together podcast is actually featured by Apple again as #1 podcast for conscious consumerism, and #1 in leisure overall, and which is exciting because we have always been saying that sustainability is not a niche anymore, clean beauty is not a niche anymore, and I think, if anything, COVID-19 and this new reality we're living in actually shows us that is the truth. Even during this kind of crisis and global pandemic, we realized what's important to us. We kind of had started having more time to think about our you know, consumer behavior, things we do at home, how we cook, what we consume, what we eat. So we're really excited about it, and we really see sustainability and this kind of new enlightenment as a silver lining of this whole kind of COVID-19 reality. So what else do Scouts? I briefly mentioned Scouts. I know we have quite a few Scouts on the call. Scouts are Brightly ambassadors who are awesome. We have over, I think, 150 or if not 170 Scouts already all over the US and even the world. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Scouts are amazing people who write amazing content for us, who help us spread the word about sustainability, and we love to hang out with each other too. So thank you guys for tuning in too. Laura, why don't you take it over from me, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, so so we're waiting on Tiila. We just sent her an email. Hopefully she's not having issues with Zoom. But if for some reason she is, that's okay. We can still make this a chat about all things clean beauty.
And Laura knows a lot about clean beauty, so you guys.
Yeah, so hi guys. I'm Laura. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Brightly, also the co-host of the Good Together podcast, where I hope some of you have heard about this chat from. Lee's already explained a bit about Brightly, about why we started these chats, but really we want these to be beneficial to the community and to, be an open conversation. So like I said, why don't we just go ahead and get started talking about clean beauty? And if the technical issues resolve on Tila's end, she'll hop in.
Tila's here.
Oh, she is.
Yeah.
Oh, there she is. Awesome.
Unmute yourself, Tiila.
Great.
Don't forget to unmute yourself, Tiila. It's in the.
So sorry.
Oh, there you are.
Being just irregular. So sorry. The internet.
No problem.
Not the best. So.
No worries.
Hey, Zoom, man. We're all living in Zoom world, so don't worry about it.
Exactly. So
cool.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. So I very briefly showed off my Aether Beauty find, but why don't we start, Tiila, with you just telling us, everyone about yourself, about Aether Beauty, why you started the company, and anything else you want us to know.
Sure. So I used to be the head of product development for Sephora for over 7 years, in charge of their private label brand, Sephora Collection. And then basically, I just started to have a disconnect with formulating conventional cosmetics and living an organic lifestyle. So I have been a vegetarian for over 26 years. I worked as an organic cooking college and was pronouncing quinoa correctly before anyone knew what the heck it was. And I even got like an organic couch made because I'm terrified of fire retardants. So kind of to make myself feel better, I volunteered there and became their head of research and sustainability for all of Sephora on top of my day-to-day role. And that role sort of really opened my eyes to everything that's sort of wrong with the beauty industry. And I learned how bad the packaging piece was, which apparently the EPA reported that 1/3 of the landfill is from the beauty industry. And that sort of like shook my world a bit. And at the same time, Sephora was ideating their clean category at Sephora, and I was brought into all of these brand meetings where people were presenting their brand and we were trying their products. And I had never been so bored at meetings at Sephora, because you're used to seeing formula innovation and colors and trends. And I'm a Sephora girl. Like, I like Pat McGrath, I like Fenty, I like all these really cool innovative formulas. And I knew I could formulate better. And so I kind of had this idea to create a brand that was, taking a sustainable and ethical lens to it beyond just the clean formulation. Because for me, when I looked at the clean makeup space, I really found that the packaging wasn't representative of the space as well as going beyond just clean and asking where the ingredients are being sourced, and all of these things. So I actually left in April 2018, and I launched my brand in June on the summer solstice. I am the only employee. I'm completely self-funded, like female founded, all the good things. So, people always see my brand at Sephora and think I'm this huge company, like just rolling in cash. And that is just not the case at all. So, it's really interesting, actually. Like, I've been in fights with people because they just like tell me off thinking I'm just lying, and I'm not. So
yeah, we can definitely commiserate with that a little bit too. I think places like Amazon and all these giant companies that have pretty good customer service, or at least customer service that's like available 24/7, has kind of trained people to not be as polite necessarily with their with other people online. I think specifically with e-commerce, but yes, I think in general we're just really inspired by your story, and how you came about that. I don't know if Lisa mentioned, but I also was a former Sephora employee.
Oh, amazing.
So, yes. I was worked on the community iOS app a while ago. But anyway, I think it's something that we get asked all the time on Brightly is about clean beauty and why people should care about clean beauty. So I wonder if you could kind of share with our audience, you know, it sounds like you had been into sustainability and to like specifically wanting to know ingredients that were going into things like your couch, for instance. So what type of ingredients do you look for when you, you know, or maybe did you look for before you started your beauty company? And I wonder if you can kind of talk about any sort of top offenders that we should be on the lookout for.
Yeah, so it's always interesting. So the reason why this whole category exists is basically because the US hasn't kept up with global regulations. So the last time the laws were updated in the cosmetic industry was literally in 1938. So at that time, they banned 32 ingredients across all beauty categories. Since 1938, there's been over 18,000 ingredients that have been used in this space, in cosmetics especially. And in the US, unfortunately with our FDA, you have to prove that something is bad before they take it off the market. And in other countries, you have to prove that something is safe before it's actually introduced into the market. So in Canada, they ban over 500 ingredients. And in the EU, they ban over 1,300 ingredients. Now, it's not necessarily a clean list. So when I partner and do a ton of research too with, there's great beauty retailers like Credo Beauty and the Detox Market, and they have a whole list of ingredients that you can't use. So I believe their lists are about 2,500 ingredients. So it goes even beyond the EU spectrum. And people always want like a really quick checklist. And for me, that's sort of, you know, what's the point if you tell people like 5 things when you're literally banning 2,500, you know? So that's why I think those retailers are great, because they take the guesswork out of it for clients, because it's so, there's so many ingredients to look for. It is like being a scientist in order to even read these ingredients. So it's really hard for the client to understand what's clean and what's not, which is why I'm such a huge proponent for actual regulation. There's been a huge like backlash against clean, saying like clean isn't real, clean doesn't mean anything, like conventional is fine. And that to me is sort of the worst thing about all of this, because people are actually trying to care about their health and their skin, and there's actual real evidence against these ingredients, which is why there's been so many companies, like the founder of Beauty Counter has really been in the forefront of the government regulations and going to the government to be able to fight and get some regulations. But unfortunately, we live in a country where those sort of things probably won't happen sooner rather than later. So it's really up to the individual to decipher all of this, which is why there's so much confusion. There's so much greenwashing. There's so much, you know, negative stuff that comes without regulation. Another company that's really great to look up, sorry, my bang, I have to like cut my bangs. It's like driving me crazy. I hate looking at all of this. But anyway, another company that's really good, and if you want to look up a particular ingredient, is the Environmental Working Group. And so they have something that lists a range from 1 to 10 on the toxicity of each ingredient. For me, I go actually above the toxicity because I'm trying to validate the source of where ingredients are coming from. So it might not necessarily be an unsafe ingredient. So for example, mica is a huge problem in the beauty industry. So 30% of the world's mica is coming directly from child labor. And
What is mica?
Mica is an ingredient. It's actually a mineral that is mined, I guess. And it is what gives sparkle in any makeup product. So it can be in your luminizer, it can be in your eyeshadow, it can be in skincare, it can be in your highlighter, your lip gloss, all those stuff. And basically, it's a problem that's happening in India, and basically there's so much unregulated products coming from there that a lot of companies don't even know where their mica is being sourced from. And so for me, that is a problem. Now, mica isn't necessarily an unclean ingredient, but if I can't vet the source of my mica, then I won't use that particular ingredient. So that to me is really going beyond and doing more of a sustainable lens in everything and making sure, because coming from a big company, it's really easy to, because you have so many people that do so many different roles, that you don't necessarily feel the whole impact of the supply chain. But I also have the knowledge of the impact of the supply chain. So I'm able to source everything back to the ingredients, and same with the packaging. So there's a huge problem with cosmetics, especially with the packaging piece of everything. And that to me was so important when I launched my brand, because I'm a mom, I have 2 kids. I did not feel comfortable creating a brand where my product would end up in a landfill that they would end up having to clean up in the later years. So my packaging is fully recyclable. So my palettes were the first fully recyclable, zero waste palettes in the beauty industry. And that to me is also just shocking, because I didn't invent a material, I didn't reinvent the wheel. I just did research, and I found out that mirrors and magnets are completely unrecyclable. Who knew? I had no idea. Like, all of these palettes had mirrors and magnets, every single lipstick component. And the ingredients for magnets are actually mined in these places in China with like treacherous human conditions. And I mean, we have magnets in our computers and our phones everywhere. And I was like, I am not okay, you know, being conscious of this and putting it in my product. So I just sort of did a little Tetris game and figured out like another way of creating a palette that wouldn't require those ingredients. So they're all paper palettes, and paper too doesn't necessarily mean it can be recycled either. People assume that. It has to do with what sort of inks are used, what sort of laminations are on there. So there's literally going as deep as you go with ingredients with the packaging piece. So I'm just oddly obsessed with these things, and the more I know, the more I want to change it.
Well, congrats. I mean, just like, I know Lisa's got a question for you. I know it's burning, but I just want to say congrats, like being the one woman show and taking that step to create this type of packaging and to do the research. I think that's huge. And it just says volumes that you were willing to do this. And then you were working for a company that was working with all these other brands that weren't even thinking about it. So that's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, and yeah, here I was showing it before that you know, that palette doesn't have a mirror, and here you actually explain, whoops, why you don't have a mirror and magnets to be more sustainable. I love that. And yeah, like as Laura mentioned, just the fact, yeah, so I dropped the link to Credo Beauty. Obviously, you know where to find Sephora, but you know, Aether Beauty products, they actually on Credo Beauty, on they're one of their products on the bestseller list with the perfect 5-star reviews. And you know, it makes a huge difference, right? It makes the big players like Sephora that are not clean focused necessarily, they, you know, recognize this trend more. I actually spend even more time on researching clean beauty and being more sustainable in general, which is a huge shift. So my question was, actually, you've mentioned a lot of stuff that you've been thinking about beyond just like clean ingredients, right? Child labor free, recycled packaging, no mirrors and magnets. So how, I'm curious, how would you define clean beauty for yourself personally? How do you see it? And as a brand for Aether Beauty? And I also want to kind of address this question to our participant as well. If you guys can drop your comments in the chat box. What is clean beauty to you? And as you guys drop the comments, I'll read them out later, but I'll open this question and start with Tiila.
Yeah. So for me, clean beauty itself is just beauty that utilizes ingredients that have been proven to be safe. For me, I kind of call myself more ethical or sustainable beauty because of what I'm doing on the other layers of the spectrum. So clean beauty doesn't necessarily encompass child labor free, sustainable, any of that. It also doesn't necessarily mean vegan or cruelty free either. It just literally has to do with the ingredients. So there's a lot of misconceptions too with vegan and cruelty free. So something can actually be cruelty-free but not vegan, which is kind of mind-blowing to a lot of people. Cruelty-free just means it's not tested on animals, but it can still have animals ingredients in it, which is an odd definition. But vegan doesn't necessarily mean it's cruelty-free either, because you can have a vegan brand that sells like in China, where they you have to be able to test on animals as part of their regulation. So those are sort of the odd definitions about that.
Sorry, I was muted. That's exactly what I was kind of like looking for. It's interesting. And I think in general, when we're talking about Brightly stuff and being sustainable and ethical, and when you start digging into all those different certifications, it's almost more confusing, you know, because you need to be looking for 5 different certifications, right? Cruelty-free, recycled packaging, vegan, organic, all of that stuff, the bleeping bunny one. And unfortunately, it does create more confusion for the consumers. And one of the things is actually an example. I saw a quote a few years ago, something, World Fair Trade Day is coming up, if you guys don't know. And somebody, I don't know, it was just an Instagram quote. It's like, shouldn't we label like not fair trade or not ethical products instead of labeling the ethical ones? Like, you know, completely changing the thinking around it. And yeah, it will be very difficult for non-ethical brands, but I think that's kind of what we're working towards.
Yeah, amen to that.
Yeah, exactly. Laura, do you have another question?
Yeah, so I had a question about, you know, what should consumers really be looking for when starting their clean beauty journey? And I think related to that, a lot of times we get the question around, you know, don't clean beauty products perform worse? And like, how does the toxic ingredients that other folks use, how does that impact performance? So I guess it's kind of a double prong question, but figured I would throw that one in there.
Yeah. So if somebody wants to just start their clean beauty journey, because this can be really overwhelming and the space carries a lot of guilt with it, which I hate. So a lot of people, you know, feel really bad for the products they already have in their house. So I always say, you know, now that you have this sort of knowledge, you know, you don't necessarily need to go home and throw everything out, right? So that just creates more waste. But what is more like your next purchase? Just making more of a conscious decision instead of just like, oh, I need to get, you know, refill this, get it on Amazon in like 2 seconds, right? Just really consciously think about like the impact of where that product is coming from, but what they're really sort of looking for. So if you have to replace your next skincare item or your next hair care item, like just maybe being a little bit more conscious about the products or the ingredients that you're purchasing. Like I said, I love Credo in the detox market because they take the guesswork out of it for clients. Sephora also has a clean beauty section, which is the part I am a part of. Their banned list is a lot smaller. So they only ban 50 ingredients versus these other retailers that ban over 2,500. So, but it still gives you a place to start. And I know even places like Target have like a clean beauty section. So there is a lot more available to people than they think, but it just depends on how deep you want to go. When it comes to efficacy in beauty, this is literally why I left my job. I loved my job at Sephora. I've literally never loved a job better. Even like people were like, are you crazy to like leave your job at Sephora, right? I had a lot of creative control. I got to travel the world. I got to create, like be a designer and design packaging and all these sort of things that I absolutely loved. But for me, the makeup space was such a hole in the market for clean beauty that can get over this misconception of it not being as effective as conventional makeup. So that's why, you know, I always talk about the sustainable piece. I always talk about the clean piece, but the part I kind of skip over is how well the product works. So that's why they're rated 5 stars, even on Sephora, which is incredibly hard to do. So at Sephora, like an average color conventional makeup brand averages like a 4.2. And clean beauty, if you like take mine out at Sephora, is like a 3.8. I'm just talking makeup right now. But for me, they're literally rated 5 stars because I had the product development experience for over 8 years of knowing how to formulate and how to formulate well. But B, because I was working for Sephora, I understood what the Sephora client was looking for. We used to watch the ratings and reviews like a hawk whenever there was a new product launch, because people do not hold back in this space, and people tear things apart for any sort of rhyme or reason, which is fine, but it makes you really understand what your client is looking for. And it also makes you create really good formula. Otherwise you're gonna get fired and like not, be creating product that is selling well. But I have formed really good relationships. I'm kind of a dork when it comes to ingredients and really pushing people, where a lot of people in the clean makeup space, who have started brands don't even come from beauty. So some are makeup artists, but that's still not a product developer. So for me, I just, I'm the client. I don't say no, and I don't put it out there until it passes my standards. And because I'm self-funded and because it's just me, like I don't have like huge, investors being like, oh, you need to push this in the market, you have to do it now. And somebody just like puts it through, even though it's not maybe 100% of what they're looking for. So I will actually hold products back until it's up to my standards. But my products last all day, even without a primer. They're also, so this other concept too, that's happening in fashion right now. So this concept of slow fashion, where you're purchasing or maybe making more of a higher purchase for something that will last longer versus these like fast fashion like Zara, H&M companies. So I'm kind of taking this idea with beauty. So a lot of retailers don't like this because they want, you to replenish and replenish, and buy and buy. But my palettes, they actually last 3 to 4 years after you open them. They have a huge product fill too. So they're like an Anastasia or an Urban Decay and half. But then you're actually getting these organic and sustainable ingredients too. So, and to answer your question about what ingredients are in conventional beauty that make, products last or more efficacious. So a lot of them are actually cheaper ingredients. A lot of them are actually block your pores. So they create like a smoother look, for example, on like your eyeshadow. So there are ingredients that, if you're using a silicone base or you're using like a powder, it'll actually block your pores from breathing. So what you're actually doing is causing your skin to age faster. So people don't realize this, where if you're using like an organic, so mine are more skincare based. So they're an organic coconut oil and shea butter base. So your eye can actually breathe, and it's actually absorbing these organic ingredients that you're putting into it. So you're putting moisture back into your skin, which is the whole point of like skincare and beauty and stuff. So a lot of people might also use clean skincare, but then they put conventional makeup on top of it, but you're actually undoing all the good with the skincare that your ingredients that you're putting onto your skin. So that is also another reason between the differences of the two.
That's very cool and very interesting to know how like you are thinking about it personally, and like the fact that your products are rated 5-star on Sephora. Yeah, I mean, if anyone shopped at Sephora, it is extremely difficult. And even for me, I'm like just starting my clean beauty journey, and I think a lot of times whenever we're looking for products, we just can't help it, but we look at the reviews, like kind of, especially I think it's helpful when people, even with fashion, by the way, we had the previous coffee chat was about fashion, ethical fashion, slow fashion, whatever you want to call it. But especially I think I find reviews helpful when, people like put their skin complexion or their age. So like, okay, someone who's 30 years old who has fair skin, probably, and of course, oily, not oily, dry, that will be more relevant to me. That's more likely to help me as a user of this product. And I want to, let me pause for a second. There were a couple of answers to my previous questions about clean beauty that came out. One of Brightly Scout Scale says, she says, clean beauty to me means not using products without harmful chemicals and additives in them. I've never thought about zero waste packaging in makeups as I don't wear it often. So yeah, like again, going beyond clean beauty and thinking about this more comprehensively as a product. And then Allison, also one of Brightly Scouts, thank you guys so much for sending your answers through. I think of clean beauty as sustainably sourced ingredients that are safe for skin. Now I will look for recyclability of products as well. One question that came from Facebook, and if you don't know this answer, that's totally fine. That was an interesting one. How about wax for hair removal? I don't know, Laura, maybe you know, or Tyler, or anyone. I haven't
Wax
used
for waxing?
Yeah, wax. Sorry, that's
okay.
one of the words.
I mean, from my perspective, I've gotten sugared before, which I
love that.
I think is supposedly a little bit more eco-friendly. But I haven't done a ton of research in it.
Yeah,
it's also a little bit. It's more painful, but it will last longer.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that one personally.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, it's different from makeup. Madeline says, Tyler, what are your thoughts on some of the clean beauty and eco-friendly brands on the market? Yeah, it was kind of one of the questions I was curious to hear. I'm just curious as to how you might compare, how do you pronounce it?
Curewise.
Okay. Yeah. Versus your brand. And yeah, feel free maybe to drop some of your favorite brands or products beyond obviously Aether Beauty that you love and support.
Yeah, I mean, it's always hard for me to answer these questions because I don't like to talk badly about other brands. But there are also, these brands exist and they're sort of the reason why I started my brand. So Kjaer Weis products personally didn't work for me. They were very, very drying and like, it just wasn't.
Same thing. They dried my skin out.
I don't like saying that. I don't like talking about.
But if it didn't work for you, it didn't work first. I think it's all like normal. But I'm curious, is that the brand where you can refill it? I think I saw it on TikTok. Yeah.
So the thing about her packaging is that it comes in these really heavy Zamak refill packaging, like the compact itself. Zamak itself isn't recyclable. So that to me is a problem. However, you will be using this, you think, for a long time. For me, I just bought it once because I didn't realize that the product didn't work. And so now I'm stuck with this component that I can't recycle or do anything with. So that to me is a problem. I like the idea of refills. I like the idea of less packaging, but that to me, the main packaging for that brand in particular is a problem. It's also incredibly expensive too.
It is.
So I think it's a hard reach for a lot of people. As far as other brands, as far as formula is concerned, because there's not a lot of brands doing anything innovative in packaging, in my opinion. But I love the new lip glosses from Tower 28. I don't know if you've ever tried that brand at all, but she has really low price point, really approachable. She herself had a lot of skin issues, so her ingredients are more based on people who have skin issues. So if you have allergies to things, like it's like non-allergenic, which is really cool.
How do you spell her name? Tara 28?
It's Tower. Is it like a tower?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
TOWER 28.
Okay.
I love her lip glosses. People always ask me in particular for like specific products. So for example, mascara, there's not a clean mascara that I love. So I am creating my own.
Nice.
And really excited for that. There's also no such thing as recyclable packaging when it comes to mascaras. So for me, I won't launch a brand until I've figured out the packaging piece. So a lot of people are like, oh, you know, when are you going to have a foundation? When are you going to have this? When are you going to have that? Which all these things also cost money to do. But for example, a foundation pump, the pump itself, there's no such thing as a recyclable pump. So the reason for that is because there's all these mixed materials and springs and things in there that in order for something to be recycled, you have to physically take every single piece apart. nobody is sorting these things at the recycling facility and taking all these little things apart. The most mind-blowing thing I've ever done is visit my local recycling facility. It's free, and it's so educational and so insightful as to how the whole recycling infrastructure works and how many problems there are with it. So for me, like, I won't launch a liquid foundation until I figure out a different way to apply the product where the packaging is actually recyclable in some way. But yeah, so most of the reason why I started my brand was because I couldn't find product that in the makeup space was up to my own standards as the conventional girl. I'm also someone that loves color. So my background is in design, and my house, I'm in my sister's house for quarantine because I live in San Francisco normally, but I'm in Arizona, which is why all this stuff is different. But I have like an apartment in San Francisco, but I'm a mom with 2 kids. So she has like a huge house here, which is great. And I can also have help with the kids while they're home and school is closed. So yay. But basically, gosh, I forgot the point of that. What was I saying? I'm so sorry.
About the packaging and
about color. Well, you're talking
Yeah,
about
color.
color.
Yeah.
Yes. So my house is painted all different colors. So I have like a teal kitchen, and that couch I got that was made without fire retardants is hot magenta. Like I just
Oh, wow.
color. So
Yeah.
that to me is why I create, these color palettes, because they're almost like artist palettes where people can play and there's different shades of color. What also happens in the beauty industry is people just knock people off all the time.
Yes.
So a lot of times you see dupes all the time, or like people are just regurgitating all these colors. I'm actually using like Pantone chips and trying to create new colors in this space. So that's why there's like different color offerings for the brand. But a lot of brands in the clean beauty space started, and it was more for like the natural girl, which is fine. But for me, it's not just the natural girl who wants clean. Everyone should have access to safe, to ingredients that are actually not harmful for their bodies. And I just happen to love, these innovative formulas and textures and colors. So that to me is filling that hole in the clean beauty space.
I have to ask, where did you get your couch made? I'm so curious now.
I'll have to look it up because it was a few years ago, but it was in
Okay.
Southern California and it was very expensive. So
Yeah.
now they've changed the laws in California. So the fire retardant law started because of laws in California. A lot of laws and regulations occur in California. And then because a company has to sell in California, they'll adjust it for everyone else. But they recently changed the fire retardant law where you don't have to have these fire retardants in your products anymore. But you have to do the research now to know if the company still puts them in or doesn't put them in. So it's a little bit confusing, but
Fabulous.
at the time it didn't happen. So I paid to get my own made.
That's awesome.
Madeline just said that they just did this for laundry detergents too. All ingredients have to be listed on the bottle in California.
Yeah.
That's good to know. And Dominique says, I'm new to clean beauty. I've learned clean beauty is better ingredients for your skin and better ingredients for the environment in general. I had no idea about the child labor, so I'm learning so much from Tiila. That's awesome.
Aww.
Yeah, and that's great. And I think, unfortunately, like I always have my marketing hat on, but I think as ethical brand founders or sustainability champions, ultimately our job, one of the main jobs we have to do is to make it as simple as possible for consumers to understand their purchasing behavior, why they should choose your brand. And yes, the quality of the product, how beautiful it is. I mean, your packaging is amazing, right? If it's clean beauty or if it's, I don't know, ethical coffee, has to taste great, it has to work great first. Otherwise, we're doing a disservice to ethical brands, sustainability movement in general. Yeah, kind of going back to, and you guys feel free to, we will probably be here for another like 5-10 minutes. So why don't you guys ask us any questions that you have, or feel free to post them in the chat. I'll jump into Facebook and see if there's any questions there. But my question is about your beauty routine. I'm always curious about that and how you think about that.
being a mom, I don't have a lot of time. And this is also a reason why I started my brand, because I had tried a lot of products in the clean beauty space and I would get pissed off because I would spend so much money on this stuff. And then if I had the time to sit down and do my makeup, it better be there 2 hours later, right? So that was the main problem with me when I thought about this about 3 years ago. Since then, the space has dramatically changed and it's become more competitive. So the formulas are getting better in the makeup space. In the skincare space, skincare has been amazing in this space for a while. There's so many skincare brands I love. I love Herbivore. I love Biossance. I'm a huge fan of CBD products. So there's a cool company called St. Jane that has this amazing body oil. She just launched lipsticks too that I've been dying to try. But my beauty routine is pretty simple. Just really sort of being able to moisturize, like, and drink as much water as possible. And then, being a makeup brand, I actually am putting on makeup every day being in quarantine. I go on social media all the time and try and educate people. So I know the lighting in here is awful. I'm usually outside, but my kids are outside screaming. So but yeah, just really, being in the desert, whenever you change where you are, like I have all of a sudden my skin is incredibly dry. So I've been using Tower 28's lip glosses all the time. I'm using some lip masks too. So anything, the most important thing with your skin is just moisture. The thing about, anti-aging, if you want to go there, the only thing that really, really works is retinol. Retinol is not a clean ingredient. There are sort of vegan alternatives. There's cleaner alternatives. There's a brand called Skin Owl that I've been using lately that is a clean sort of version of retinol. But yeah, the main thing with your skin is just keeping it as moisturized and as just as hydrated as really as possible. And like, by the way, with clean, like hair care is really important. Literally everyone's like, what category should I start in? And that's why I usually tell people what's the next thing you need to buy, because eventually if you take that, you will come the full spectrum with your hair care, with your nail care, sort of with everything. So unfortunately, it's not like, oh, just a really quick, like swap this for that. And it really still, just like the whole beauty industry exists, like everybody's skin is different, everybody's hair is different. So you really have to sort of research to do to find what works for you. But that's why, again, I mean, like I don't have, like, yes, I sell to Credo and Detox, but I don't get any like extra money for them or whatnot. But they have such great salespeople. Especially Credo, you can like DM them live.
Yep. I was doing it at 10 p.m. one night.
Yeah, if you have like a question about a product or will it work for my hair, or like, does this work for my skin tone, or what is this ingredient? Their staff is amazing and they're so well educated that yeah, like I highly recommend using a retailer that can help answer these questions for you.
Question from Madeline. Did you say Biosense, one of the brands you've mentioned?
Yeah, Biossance. They make basically clean squalene. So it's made out of sugar cane instead of from shark skins or shark fins.
Yep, shark fins, I think. Yep.
Yeah. So it's a really interesting company that's coming out of the Bay Area. They're just a skincare brand, and I believe they're exclusive to Sephora only. But they're a great brand to check out. Alpyn Beauty, P.S. Alpyn, ALYPN. It's all like organically wild harvest skincare. So it is my new obsession. I believe she launched on Sephora recently. I think she sold out. They might have replenishment. I'm not sure, but I think she's at Credo too. She has this overnight mask. I forget the name of it, but it's amazing. It's literally my newest obsession. So, and she's like a small founder like me. They literally wild harvest the ingredients like on her farm out there. So it's a really cool brand to check out.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm putting all of the links that you're saying, I'm putting it in the chat. So there's
Yeah.
few questions and comments that came through. I want to mention them. So Dominique, I think she's one of Aether Beauty customers. She says, my favorite Aether product is the Ruby Cheek palette. The pigmentation and wear time is amazing. I run around after 3 boys, so I need the long wear. So
Totally.
that's great to know. And then,
Oh my God, 5 boys. More power to you, honey, because I have 2 and I want to murder them half the time.
yeah, that's awesome. And then Kelsey says, I'm with you on that one. I think, yeah, if I'm going to put on makeup, I better stay for hours and not cause me to break out. That's super important. One question that Dominique had is Tower 28's packaging recyclable? I'm not sure if you know that.
I don't know the answer to that. You might have to ask the brand itself. I know that with their lip glosses, it all seems to be one material. So in theory, if something's one material, you can recycle it depending on how big it is. When you recycle something, it has to be bigger than a credit card. So I actually like take out, this isn't a credit card, this is a transit card, but it's the same size. And I'll like, for instance, this is something. So if you like, each piece has to be bigger than a credit card. So this is like a lip gloss, which is pretty much that. But if you take this cap off, this cap isn't recyclable because it's smaller than a credit card. So anything smaller than that is going to go into the landfill. Also, black plastic is completely unrecyclable, which is really huge for me in the beauty industry because so many products are made with black plastic. And black plastic is simply not recyclable for just an infrastructure problem. So black plastic is put on these black conveyor belts and the sensors literally just can't read it. So they just take it, and like these recycling facilities you would think would be like very environmental conscious and like doing stuff like that, but it's not. It's a business and people are workers and they're just trying to do their job, right? So they just take whatever is left and doesn't get sorted and it goes directly into the landfill. And I also read something, unfortunately, that like during all this COVID-19 stuff, like there's less workers. So people like recycling facilities are actually not recycling. So I don't know how true that is, but it's just something I recently read. So yay.
That's so interesting. I would never even know that. Kelsey has a question. Do you have any recommendations for clean shampoos and conditioner? Really struggling with finding a steady supply of clean products for hair.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on your hair type. So that's why, again, it's super important, all these things, like what type of skin you have, what type of hair you have, which is why, like, I've not tried everything. I've only really tried what works for me, but that's why I like Credo, because you could ask them what works, you know, knowing your hair type. For me, I've been using a brand called Inner Sense, really, but I have really, really fine, thin hair. And that's the brand that seems to be working the best for me at the moment. It's not, I'm always looking for a good hair care. The thing for hair care, I feel like for me is like, I always have to change it every once in a while. Otherwise my hair just goes dull. And I don't know if that's just because I have thin hair or what. I'm not a shampoo expert, unfortunately. I'm really good with makeup, but everything else, trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I like to use Aveda, but I know that they're not like the cleanest of the clean. I think they kind of get halfway there. And I did contact them once about recycling their containers, and some of them are recyclable. So yeah, I'm with everybody else trying to find a good shampoo and conditioner. We always like, you know, we read about like the bar shampoo and conditioners, and I've not had a chance to try those out, but I'm very curious about them.
I've heard good things about the brand Ethique that I think
okay.
It comes out of New Zealand, but I think it's pretty accessible. They're just bars.
Yeah, we just gave them a shout out in our TikTok the other day, and you can find them on Amazon, which is another kind of a big question that we always struggle with. Should we shop on Amazon or not? I mean, obviously always support brands directly, but if you have to, I think it's okay to buy clean beauty brand from Amazon.
Totally.
So
all right.
Ethic, yeah. And Laura just commented, we will make a post obviously with all this amazing clean beauty recommendations. Like one main thing that we got also from Tiila is that always think about what's good for you. Everyone is unique in terms of their hair, their skin color, their skin type, and all of that stuff. And Madeline, I think Madeline, oh, Madeline, you put the hair stuff, right? These are the hair brands. Also, you guys can see in the comments. Plain Products, Innocence Beauty, Evolve BH. Yeah, so there's a lot of them. Or some major, yeah, I've heard of that brand before. Okay, cool. I think we had quite a nice discussion. I know there's so much to unpack with clean beauty, so this is kind of like a clean beauty primer, right?
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Tyler. We really appreciate it. I know everybody here, this is probably one of the first coffee chats where I've seen people's video where they've been like facial. So like that makes me think of like the next time I go to a big Zoom chat, I'm going to do that too.
Oh, I have one more shout out actually. I just remembered. So
Yeah.
Credo and Detox are really great for like clean beauty starters. They've been around a while. They have really great staff. There is another company that's smaller, but they take sustainability in mind beyond clean. And that retailer is called Beauty Heroes. So she won't bring a product into her space if the formulas or the packaging are bad for the environment. So for example, like silicones don't biodegrade in the environment. So even you take all this stuff off, it goes somewhere. It goes on your like wipes, it goes down your drain, it goes down, you know, you don't really think about the impact of all this stuff when you take it off. But she is doing that and it's pretty cool. And I'm really excited for her. So if you're looking beyond clean for more sustainable options, Beauty Heroes is a great retailer.
Beauty Hero. And what was the other company that you've mentioned before where we can look up ingredients? I forgot.
Oh, the
right?
Environmental Working Group.
Yep.
Okay, got it.
There's
All right.
there's also an app called Think Dirty that I believe is out of Canada. And you can look up a product like, I don't know, Tarte's mascara or something, and it will give you a rating for the entire product versus Environmental Working Group, I believe, only lists products if people have paid to be on there, but I'm not sure 100%.
Cool, awesome. And Madeline is asking how she can get in touch with you. I dropped the link to your Instagram. Any other links or places you want?
So the brand is Aether Beauty, so AETHER. So the company is aetherbeautyco.com and the same on Instagram. So I'm the one on there. So if you email, if you DM, like I am the one talking to you. So if you have any more questions, I'm always available to help.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Tyler, and thanks everyone.